fine rain that Tuesday morning fell on the city as if it wanted to wash away everything that no one else dared to look at. It was a lazy rain, the kind that doesn't soak you right away but slowly clings to your hair, to the thin fabric of cheap coats, to the tired skin of those who no longer have time to care about the weather. On a quiet corner near the side entrance of a large supermarket, a woman in her early 30s sat on a plastic stool she had brought from home with two small children leaning against her. The boy was about 6 years old, the girl perhaps 4. They both wore clean clothes, which was what hurt the most for those who paid attention, because it was clear that this mother still cared. The girl's pink blouse had been washed so many times that the pattern was almost gone, but it was clean. The boy's shoe had a small hole on the side, but the laces were tied meticulously. In that way, only a mother would tie them with a double knot, as if that knot could hold something that was about to fall apart. The woman's name was Helena. Nobody on that corner knew her name, and perhaps nobody wanted to know. People passing by avoided looking. Some quickened their pace. Others veered to the other side of the sidewalk, feigning a sudden interest in the window display of some shop. Helena had realized, long ago, that poverty has this strange power to make one invisible. It was as if, by having nothing, she too had ceased to exist in the eyes of the world. And the worst part was that she understood. Before, when life was still different, she also avoided looking. She also quickened her pace. She also pretended not to see. Today, sitting on that little bench with her two children close to her, she knew that it wasn't malice from people. It was fear. Fear of looking and seeing, in the face of a stranger, the reflection of what could happen to anyone. Helena didn't ask. That was the hardest part. She hadn't learned to ask, and the pride that remained inside her, that stubborn little piece that life hadn't yet managed to tear away, wouldn't allow her to extend her hand. Instead, she held a small straw basket in her lap with fritters wrapped in paper napkins. She had made 20 that morning, with the last cup of flour left in the cupboard, an egg that the neighbor had given her out of pity and borrowed sugar. Each fritter cost 2 reis. If she sold them all, she could buy rice, some beans, maybe a liter of milk for the girl who was starting to get those dark circles under her eyes that no mother wants to see on her daughter's face. But it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and she had only sold 3. 6 reis, not even enough for milk. The boy, whose name was Tomas, was hungry, but he didn't say anything. Helena had learned to recognize her son's hunger by small signs because he didn't ask either. Tomas had inherited this sweet flaw from her, this instinct not to want to burden her. When he was hungry, the boy would become very quiet, rest his head on his mother's arm, and breathe slowly, as if breathing deeply could fill something inside. The girl, Leah, was still too young to hide it. She would just tug at the hem of her mother's shirt and murmur softly, "Mom, I want something." She wouldn't finish the sentence. Helena didn't ask what it was either. They both knew. Helena looked at the 2 small cakes she had set aside separately, wrapped in a different napkin, hidden at the bottom of the basket. They were for her children's lunch. She had decided the night before that she herself wouldn't eat that day. For 3 days, she had been doing this, eating only a small piece here and there, giving the rest to the children. Her body had felt strangely light, as if it were beginning to disappear. When she stood up too quickly, the world darkened for a second, and she needed to hold on to something. But she endured. A mother endures. A mother always endures, because ceasing to endure means that her children will have to endure in her place, and that she wouldn't allow. It was at that moment that Leah began to cry. It wasn't a loud cry, nor one of those theatrical cries of a tantrum-throwing child. It was a small cry, almost ashamed, as if she knew that crying there on that street corner was asking for more than her mother could give. Tears streamed slowly down the girl's face, and she hid her face in Helena's blouse so that no one would see. Helena ran her hand through her daughter's hair, felt that it was a little oily because she hadn't been able to buy shampoo that week, and closed her eyes. She herself felt that she was going to cry, and that's when she began to pray softly. Not because she still believed much, but because praying was the only thing left inside her that didn't cost money. Lord, she thought, without moving her lips, I'm not asking for much. Just today help me feed them. Tomorrow I'll manage again. But today I have nothing more. That's when the car stopped. It was a large, dark car, one of those that shine even in the rain, one of those that seem to glide instead of drive. It stopped right in front of the side entrance of the supermarket, and for a moment, Helena didn't even pay attention because cars like that never had anything to do with her. Cars like that were from another world, a world she only knew from shop windows and the magazines left over in doctors' waiting rooms. She continued with her head down, stroking Leah's hair, waiting for the rain to stop, waiting for the time to pass, waiting for life to pass by once and for all if it was meant to pass. The man who got out of the car was about 45 years old, maybe a little older. He wore a simple gray suit, no tie, his white shirt unbuttoned at the top button, and had that air of someone who knows where he's going but doesn't think he's superior because of it. His name was Raphael. He owned a chain of companies that Helena had never heard of, because those who are starving don't have room in their heads for company names. Raphael had come to that supermarket for a trivial reason: to buy a bottle of wine for a business dinner at his house that night, a dinner he was tired of thinking about, with people he was tired of receiving, about subjects he was tired of pretending mattered. Raphael had been a widower for 4 years. 4 years, 2 months, and 11 days to be exact, although he had stopped counting the days aloud because people started to get uncomfortable when he spoke. His wife Marina had died in a car accident returning from a business trip, and since then, Raphael had lived in that strange state of someone who is alive but has forgotten what for. He had money, he had companies, he had employees, he had dinners, he had full schedules, he had everything except a reason. And when you lose your reason, everything else starts to seem like decoration. Raphael got out of the car, raised the collar of his jacket because of the light rain, and walked towards the entrance of the market. It was only because of a small detail that he turned his head. It was the sound, the soft sound of Leah's crying, muffled against her mother's blouse, which somehow cut through the noise of the street and reached his ear. Raphael stopped. He looked to the side, and he saw a woman sitting on a plastic stool with 2 children clinging to her, a basket of cookies in her lap, and a face he recognized instantly, though he had never seen it before. It was the face of someone enduring. He knew that face. He had seen that face in the mirror for 4 years. Raphael stood still for a second. People continued to pass around him, indifferent. A man in a suit walked hurriedly in front of him and almost bumped into him. A woman pushing a shopping cart passed by, looking at her cell phone. No one saw Helena. No one saw the 2 boys clinging to her. No one saw the basket of cookies. It was as if that scene were happening in a different dimension, parallel to that of the street, and only Raphael, at that moment, had been allowed to see it. He approached slowly, unhurriedly, in that way of someone who doesn't want to frighten anyone. Helena noticed his shadow before raising her head, and when she did, her eyes met his for just a second. But it was one of those seconds you carry with you for the rest of your life without knowing why. Helena quickly lowered her eyes, reflexively, out of habit, because poor people learn early on not to stare. She adjusted the basket in her lap, settled Leah in her arms, and tried to compose her expression so as not to look like she was about to break. "Good morning," he said, in a low voice without pity, without that voice of someone talking to a child or a dog. It was an adult's voice talking to another adult. Helena replied, "Good morning too," softly, and for a moment waited for him to ask the price of the cakes, buy one out of politeness, and leave. That's how it usually happened when someone stopped. They would buy 1, 2 at most, and leave, relieved to have done their part. But Raphael didn't ask the price. He bent down a little to the children's level and looked at Tomas. "What's your name?" he asked. The boy looked at his mother first, silently asking for permission, and only then answered, "Tomas." "And your sister?" he asked. "Leah," said the boy. Raphael nodded slowly, as if those names were important, as if he would need to remember them later. "Are these your little cakes?" he asked Helena. Helena said yes. "I made them this morning," she added unintentionally, and immediately regretted saying more than she needed to. Raphael nodded again. "How much is each one?" he asked. 2 reais, she said. Raphael looked at the basket. There were 15 little cakes inside, plus the 2 hidden at the bottom, but he didn't see those 2. "I'll take them all," he said. Helena took a second to understand the sentence. When she did, something inside her stirred in a way she couldn't control. Her eyes filled with tears without permission, and she had to take 2 deep breaths to avoid collapsing in front of the man and the children. She said, without looking at him, "That'll be 30 reais, then." Raphael took his wallet from the inside pocket of his jacket, opened it, and took out a 100 note. He held it out to her. Helena looked at the note, then at him, and said, in a voice that tried to be firm but trembled, "I don't have change, sir." "No need for change," he said. Helena stood still. She wanted to refuse because her pride hurt, because accepting seemed like surrendering something she had been defending for years. But Leah was still crying softly in her lap, and Tomas had that quiet, hungry feeling she knew all too well, and a mother's pride is different from a woman's pride. A mother's pride knows when to shut up. She took the note with a trembling hand and said, "Thank you," but the word came out weak, almost voiceless. Raphael shook his head, as if dismissing the thanks. He carefully took the basket of cookies from her hands, as if he were picking up something fragile, and then something unexpected happened. Instead of leaving with the basket, Raphael opened it right there in front of her, took one of the cookies, and offered it to Tomas. "You can eat it," he said. Tomas looked at his mother. Helena nodded slowly, and the boy took the cookie with both hands, as if it were a precious thing, and bit into it. It was a small bite at first, then a larger one, then another, and in a few seconds the cookie had disappeared. Raphael took another and gave it to Leah. The girl stopped crying to eat. He took another and offered it to Helena. Helena shook her head. "I'm not hungry," she said. Raphael looked at her. It wasn't a look of pity. It was a look of recognition. He held the cake in his hand without insisting, without saying anything more. He just waited. He waited 1, 2, 3 seconds. And in those seconds, something was said between them without words. Helena understood that he had understood, that he knew, that he had done that too, somewhere in his life, perhaps in a different way, perhaps for a different reason, but he had done it. He had endured it too. He had gone without eating too, although for different reasons. She took the cake. She bit into it. And then finally she cried. It wasn't a loud cry. It was a silent cry, the kind you hold back with your breath, your shoulders, your stomach, but that escapes through your eyes without asking permission. Raphael said nothing. He didn't try to console her. He didn't pat her shoulder. He didn't say nice things. He didn't do anything that people usually do when they are embarrassed by the suffering of others. He just stood there, standing in the light rain, holding the basket, waiting for her to finish eating. When Helena finished, she wiped her face with her sleeve, took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry." Raphael said he had nothing to apologize for. He asked if she lived nearby. Helena hesitated. It wasn't her custom to tell strangers these things, but there was something about that man that didn't seem strange, although she couldn't explain what it was. "I live in a small rented room 3 blocks from here," she said, "alone with them." Raphael asked about the children's father. Helena took a while to answer. "He left," she said. 2 years ago. He said he was going to buy cigarettes and never came back." Helena smiled awkwardly as she told this. That way one smiles when trying to show that they've overcome something that still hurts every day. Raphael nodded. He didn't comment. He didn't judge. He didn't say he was sorry, or that all men are the same, or any of the phrases people say when they hear a story like that. He simply asked, with a naturalness that seemed almost strange in its simplicity, if she would agree to go into the market with him and do some shopping. She didn't understand. "Shopping for what?" she asked. "Food," he said. "For the week. I'll pay." Helena remained silent. Her pride began to ache again in that old way, like a wound you think is healed but suddenly hurts again just by touching it. "I can't accept this," she said softly. "You've already bought the cakes. That's already a lot." Raphael looked at her with that calmness he had, which seemed to indicate he wasn't in a hurry for anything, and said, "I'm not offering out of pity. I'm offering because today I have, and you don't. Tomorrow it might be the other way around." Helena looked at him, not quite understanding, and he continued, "I've been hungry too, in a different way. Not the kind of hunger you have in your stomach, the other kind of hunger, the kind nobody sees. And when I went through it, I really wanted someone to look, that's all. For someone to look. Today I'm looking." Helena's words remained stuck inside her for a long time afterward, but at that moment she could only nod. She took Leah's hand, held Tomas's shoulder, and the 3 of them entered the supermarket behind Raphael. She was tense, afraid that people would stare, afraid that the security guard would ask her to leave because it had happened before in other places. But Raphael walked ahead of her with the tranquility of someone who belongs everywhere, and because of that, no one gave him a disapproving look. He pushed a cart and told her to put in whatever she needed. Helena froze. She didn't know what to get. Those who are hungry lose their sense of what is necessary because everything starts to seem necessary and everything starts to seem impossible at the same time. Raphael noticed. He started getting things for her. Rice, beans, oil, salt, sugar, coffee, milk, eggs, chicken, ground beef, fruit, cookies for the children, 2 packets of filled cookies that Leah looked at with shining eyes, a packet of diapers because he saw Helena looking at the shelf in a way he understood, soap, shampoo, toothpaste, new toothbrushes for the 2 boys. He was putting everything in the cart with methodical calm, without asking, without commenting, as if he were doing his own shopping. Helena walked beside him in silence, her eyes filled with tears the whole time, and the children walked behind, not quite understanding what was happening, but sensing in the air that something good was happening, one of those good things that children sense before adults. At the checkout, when the cashier scanned all the items and told her the total, Helena closed her eyes because the number was greater than what she had earned in entire months combined. Raphael paid without changing his expression, picked up the bags, and walked out with them. Helena followed behind. He put everything in the trunk of the car, opened the back door, and said, "I'll take you home. You can't carry all this on foot with the children." Helena got into the car with Tomas and Leah. It was the first time the children had ridden in a car like that. Leah ran her hand over the leather seat, enchanted, and Tomas looked out the window as if he were seeing the world for the first time. Helena gave directions. It was only 3 blocks, but it felt like a long trip, one of those trips that change something inside you without you knowing how. When they arrived, Helena asked to get out at the corner, too shy to show where she lived. Raphael parked, but instead of letting her get out and carry the bags alone, he got out with her, took the bags, and said, "Show me the way." Helena obeyed, unable to argue. The small room was at the back of an old house, shared with 3 other families. It was a single room with a double bed where the three slept, an old mattress on the floor, a small two-burner stove, a small sink, and nothing else. The walls had damp stains but were clean. The floor was clean. The few clothes they had were folded on top of a cardboard box that served as a dresser. Raphael entered, looked around without any expression of pity, without any expression of horror, in that way of someone who respects the space of others, even when the space of others hurts to look at. He placed the bags on the small table, and Helena began to put things away in the sink, on the floor, on top of the stove, anywhere that would fit, because there was no cupboard. When she finished, Raphael was still there, standing near the door, his hands in his pockets. Helena thought he was going to leave, but instead he asked, "Do you know how to cook?" Helena nodded. "I used to work as a cook," she said, "before all this. I worked for 10 years in a restaurant downtown. Then the restaurant closed. I got pregnant with Leah. Her father left, and I couldn't get back into the job market. I tried very hard. But nobody wants to hire a single woman with 2 small children and nowhere to leave them." Helena said all this at once, unintentionally, as if the words had been trapped inside her for years and had finally found a crack to escape. Raphael listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, "I own a restaurant. It's part of one of the companies. The head cook quit last week because her husband was transferred to another city. I need someone." Helena looked at him, not understanding, or understanding too much, or both. She said, "Sir, you don't know me. You don't know if I cook well. I don't have a resume. I don't have references. I haven't cooked professionally in 5 years." Raphael looked at her and said, "I just ate a fritter you made. It was the best I've ever had. And it wasn't just because of the fritter." Helena started crying again, but this time it was a different kind of cry. It wasn't a cry of pain, nor a cry of hunger, nor a cry of exhaustion. It was the cry of someone who had heard, after a long time, a word she had been waiting to hear. She tried to say something, but couldn't. Raphael waited. He had a patience that seemed endless. When she managed to compose herself, he said, "I'll give you the job. You can start Monday if you want. The salary is 3,000 reais a month, plus transportation allowance, plus meal allowance, plus health insurance for you and the 2 boys. And there's a partner daycare near the restaurant where Leah can stay for free while you work. Tomas goes to public school in the morning and stays at daycare in the afternoon until you leave." Helena listened to each of those phrases as if they were stones falling into still water that had been stagnant for years. Each word made a ripple inside her. When he finished speaking, she still took a while to be able to answer. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why are you doing this for me? You don't know me." Raphael looked at her, and it was the first time she saw in his eyes something that wasn't just calm. It was something deeper, more wounded, older. "I had a wife," he said. "Her name was Marina. She died 4 years ago in an accident. We wanted to have children, but the time was never right. It was never the right moment. There was always a more important job, a meeting, a trip. Then when she died, I was left with nothing. I had everything, but I had nothing. And since that day, I've been asking myself what I'm doing here. Why do I wake up? What for? This morning I left home just to buy a bottle of wine for a dinner I didn't even want to make. And then I saw the 3 of you. And I can't explain it very well, but it was as if someone had given me an answer I'd been looking for 4 years without even knowing what the question was. So it's not a favor," he said softly. "It's the opposite. You're the ones doing me a favor." Helena remained silent. Tomas and Leah sat on the bed, nibbling on filled cookies that Raphael had bought, silently listening without understanding, but feeling. Helena looked at her 2 children, then at Raphael, and said just one word. She said, "Thank you." And that word, this time, came out whole. Raphael went out that day, but returned the next. He brought a new mattress because he had seen that the mattress on the floor was punctured, and said it was a spare mattress he had at home, which was a lie, but Helena pretended to believe him. He returned the following day with a blanket for Leah, who had coughed during the night. He returned the day after that to confirm the restaurant's address and explain how Helena would get there. On each visit, he stayed a little longer. He talked to Tomas about school, asked Leah the name of her doll, listened to Helena recount small things from her day, and also recounted small things from his day. These weren't conversations about the past or the future. They were conversations about the present. About the rain, about the price of tomatoes, about the neighbor of the restaurant who always complained about the music, about the drawing Leah had made on a notebook page. Small conversations. Conversations of people who are getting to know each other slowly. Helena started work on Monday. She arrived trembling, afraid she wouldn't be able to cope, afraid she'd lost her touch, afraid she'd disappoint. On her first day, she barely ate, barely spoke, she just cooked. She cooked as if her life depended on that day, because it did. At the end of the day, the restaurant manager called her into his office. Helena went in thinking she was going to be fired on her first day, because that's how poor mothers are, always expecting the worst. But the manager said that 3 different customers had sent compliments to the kitchen. that the dish of the day had sold twice as much as usual, that he wanted her to stay, that she had a knack for it. Helena left that room and went to the restaurant bathroom, locked the door and cried again. But it was a cry she had already begun to recognize. It was the cry of someone who was starting to exist again. Months went by. Raphael didn't disappear. He would show up at the restaurant occasionally, have a quick meal in a corner, chat with her whenever she had a free minute. He was never intrusive. He never insinuated anything. He never asked for anything. Helena, on her side, didn't ask for anything either. She worked, paid her bills, had managed to rent a small but decent apartment in a simpler neighborhood, had bought a real bed for her children, had enrolled Tomas in after-school tutoring because he had started to show an interest in math. Life was moving forward. And at some point, without either of them realizing the exact day, Raphael had begun to be a part of that new life. Not as a boss, not as a benefactor, as a person. It was on a Sunday afternoon, almost a year after that first day on the corner, that Helena finally understood. She had taken the children to a public park, one of those with makeshift playground equipment and large trees. Raphael had appeared by chance, or almost by chance, because by then nothing was exactly by chance between the two of them anymore. He was sitting on a park bench, watching Tomas play on the slide with Leah behind him. Helena sat down next to him in silence. They stayed like that for a long time, without saying anything, just watching the children. And then Raphael said, softly, without looking at her, "I wanted to ask you something, but if you don't want to answer, that's fine." Helena said, "Go ahead." Raphael took a deep breath. That man who was always so calm at that moment seemed like a boy. "I wanted to know," he said, "if you think that one day, it doesn't have to be now, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, but one day, when you feel like it, if you feel like it, if one day that feeling strikes you, you think you could let me be a part of your lives in another way. Not as a friend, in a more meaningful way." Helena remained silent. She watched her children playing. She looked at her own hands, which were fuller now, with less slender fingers, the old wedding ring long since removed. She looked at the man beside her, who had appeared in her corner one day in a light rain, and who, since that day, had never disappeared again without saying when he would return. She said, "I think that day has already arrived a long time ago, Raphael. I was just waiting for you to ask." Raphael laughed. It was a small laugh, one of those laughs that almost turn into tears, and then he took her hand. Not hastily, not with the passion of a soap opera. He took her hand, the way you hold something you know is fragile and that you never want to hurt again, and they stayed there. The two of them sitting on the park bench, watching the children play, holding hands without any hurry. Leah came running at some point, her knee slightly scraped, the kind of scrapes children get that hurt more from the shock than from the skin itself. Helena picked the girl up, blew on her knee, gave her a kiss, and Leah ran back to the slide as if nothing had happened. Raphael looked at Helena differently, and Helena understood the look. It was the look of someone who had waited 4 years to see someone blow on a scraped knee and say that everything would be all right. It was the look of someone who had finally found a reason to wake up in the morning. They got married almost 2 years after that first meeting. It wasn't a big wedding. It was a simple ceremony with a few friends in a small garden. Tomas carried the rings. Leah scattered the petals. Helena wore a simple white dress, without lace, without glitter, because she said she didn't need anything more than that. Raphael cried when she entered. He wasn't a man who cried in public, but that day he cried without any shame, because he had finally understood that crying tears of joy is one of the most complete things a human being can do. Years later, when Leah was already a teenager and Tomas was in engineering school on a merit scholarship, Helena would still occasionally go to that corner near the supermarket. She would carry a bag with bread, fruit, and fritters wrapped in paper napkins. She would stand there for a few minutes, looking around, searching for someone who might be waiting, looking for a woman sitting on a plastic stool with children clinging to her, looking for a gaze she recognized in that way that only someone who has been there recognizes. When she found one, and she almost always did, she would approach slowly. She would sit beside them. She wouldn't ask questions. She would just extend the bag and say, in a low voice she had learned from Raphael many years before, "I've been here before. Today I'm just looking." Some of the women accepted, others didn't. Helena respected both. She knew that the pride of a poor mother is sacred and that no one can take it away by force. But she also knew that sometimes a look is enough. It's enough for someone to stop. It's enough for someone to see. Because the hunger for food is only half the hunger. The other half, the one no one sees, is the hunger to exist in someone's eyes. And that, this Helena had learned, is the hunger that kills the most. At that first corner, on a day of light rain, a man who had everything and nothing stopped to look at a woman who had nothing and everything. And in that instant, without either of them quite knowing what was happening, two lives that were almost giving up decided, in silence, that it was worth trying again. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't luck. It was someone stopping. It was someone looking. It was someone seeing. And sometimes that's all we need to exist again.